Esteemed citizens of this great nation, let's review our year together. During the past year, we have reduced the deficit by 3.5 percentage points. We have also opened up 5 new schools in the region of the North, and we have tailored our crime rate by 5%. State of the nation check-ins are done by heads of state, by businesses. Why don't we do them? We should. So check-ins are basically a periodic look at how are things going. How are things going for me personally, and how are they going jointly in our space, in our shared space together? They are marvelous. Sometimes we have life check-ins. Something happens out of the blue that provokes this introspection of how am I? How are we? How are things? Those happen. They might happen once a year. They might happen once every 10 years, depending on the severity. But intentional check-ins are things that we actually provoke. We plan on a time and space in which we want to know how are things. How are things? We should not assume that our plot of land, or our pot, if our relationship's still in just a pot, is going well just because I see some leaves. Yeah, it all looks alive. No, let's check in with each other. Honey, how are we? Are you happy with where we are? Is there something you'd like to do differently? Where do you see us in the future? Let's check in. You can call check-ins whatever you want, but it is just that space. I'm just using a check-in because it sounds easy, fun, and light, and it makes you think of travel. Check-in. But let's structure this into the pre, how you prepare for the check-in, what do you do during, and then what do you do after. So pre your check-in, think about frequency. If it's a new relationship, I mean, you're in you and you're just deepening in your you, and you're still just getting settled into this groove of the relationship, then obviously you don't need to do a check-in too soon, because there's nothing to check in on because you're so new. But if you've been together a year or two, what's the frequency of the check-ins that you like to have? Once a year? I think once a year is perfectly normal. Once every 6 months might be appropriate if you're actually going through a peak of conflict, there's a lot of conflict and a lot of conflict resolution. There's a lot of change management. There's just a difficult season for you both. Then you might want to check in more often so that things don't turn sideways without you being cognizant of it. You can also, in those cases when it's just really, really tense and you're on top of the problem, if you're actually really on top of the problem, then you would negate your need for a check-in. But let's just say that once a year is a good standard practice for most check-ins. Is when you go for the doctor for your annual check-in, your checkup. It would be a checkup. In companies, we do annual performance reviews. It's annually. It seems like a good. We're habituated to having annual reviews. The same with our relationships. So, but you might decide a different frequency. Maybe 6 months, maybe every 2 years. Entirely up to you. Just letting you know that you should consider what frequency you want to have. Then what to cover. You can do simply what I do in my emails, which is what's going great, what's not going so great, and what we would like to change. You can keep it really simple. To not make this really complex, this needs to be a really easy process for both of you to manage. And what to cover. So these are questions to dig deeper. And these are questions, as with all of the questions that I've presented throughout, any discussion points are self-reflection points first. You need to have some things clear with yourself first before you bring them up. Otherwise, you can have them. You can have these conversations, but you're going to need to do some self-reflection after. So you might as well do it before, so you can come to the conversation having your homework done. So questions to ask yourself for that deeper reflection about your relationship, about yourself, and about how you feel in the relationship and your partner, vice versa. Is respect still present? I hope it is. Is there peace? Is there beauty? Do you still enjoy each other's company? Are you laughing together? Are you being fickle with some of the things that you want to change? And is there still willingness to work together and perhaps differently? Maybe we're still willing to work together. We're still both committed to working together, but perhaps we have to work differently to get different results. So that's the work prior to your check-in. And now during your check-in, what do you actually do? So maybe you should take notes. I suggest taking notes. Maybe taking notes. Depend if it's just a casual check-in, it's your first annual check-in, you're like, ah. And but if you actually want to give it importance in your relationship, maybe to take notes, to because what they say they want to change or that they didn't like or they you just maybe want to take notes to have things to reflect upon later because you might want to have reflection later. So take notes. Consider taking notes. Listen. We've talked a great deal about listening, the presence that it takes to listen, to actively listen, to hold that information and take it in. So listen, be present. Time and space. Choose a time and space that's appropriate for you both. A neutral space and plenty of time for if one of you is an extroverted thinker and they will process everything out loud. Give them time and space to process those things out loud for honest discussion. You want time and space for honest discussion, especially if you've done the work, if you've done the homework before, then you want space for that honest discussion. I have a friend who's been married for, I think it's 32 years. He said, if I were to marry again, if I were to get divorced and get married again, I would change how we do vows. I would maybe start with you do vows that are good for 10 years. And then after the 10-year mark, you have to renew vows every 5 years, or every 3 years, or every year annually. And I thought, there's actually something to that in the sense of, especially if you've gone the route of going down the altar, marriage and so forth, we take those vows, and I know people renew their vows, don't get me wrong, but to consciously renew our vows. Couples do that at the 25-year mark, maybe at the 50-year mark, but consciously renew our commitment, consciously renew our vows, maybe annually, maybe every 5 years, maybe every 10 years, whatever that is for you. As you've seen throughout our journey together, it's about bringing consciousness and intention into the things that we're doing so that we receive the outcomes that we say we want. If we don't put the intention there, the outcomes are different. So if I want a relationship in which we're both intentionally going towards a place, then renewing our commitment of what that place is might be a good exercise for us. Just things to consider. Also, the pretzel wheel. The pretzel wheel, and you can do it, obviously, filling it out individually, but doing it jointly can help you to decide if what elements within the wheel might need work within the partnership, might need work within the couple. So it just gives you elements, topics, discussion topics to work with your partner. Okay, and so we have pre, we have post, and we have during, and we have post. So afterwards, depending on the outcome of that check-in, we might have homework. We might have action plans that are necessary because there are things that we want to change, and they're not as easy as, can you take the kids on Tuesdays to school? They're actual things that require action plans, that require changes, or require drafts of action. So let's create those plans. That's one thing that we can do post. And another thing is let's create dream plans. Let's create future plans. Let's future cast and vision cast as to where we want to be. A year from now, what kind of things do you want to say we've done together? It's beautiful to not just, we're doing great, we're not doing so great, we want to change this or that, but then also to create space to, let's do some future casting. We want to maybe do we want to take an exotic trip next year, or we want to buy our first house, or let's future cast to create common goals for the coming year. Especially if you're doing this annually, it could be, and even if you do it every 2 years, or even every 3 years, and just longer term goals, and then you have to break them down. But this space to create these common goals. let's get to it. Your check-ins. So think about what would be the appropriate time frame for you to have your check-ins. See you tomorrow.